Hey guys, welcome to an interesting video on Wild Rift. So today we're back with the breakdown for patch 6.0. So of course, as with every major patch, this one is going to be a long one and there's going to be a ton of changes. Of course, we're going to kind of gloss over changes that are not as important or stuff that you can read yourself. Otherwise, this is going to take more than an hour for sure. So first up, let's take a look at the new champion. So Rumble is basically going to be released when the patch is over. There's going to of course be Gnar and Poppy, as we already found out from the patch preview. So it's a Yordle Battle City based patch. The rank season is going to, the current rank season is going to end one day after the patch, and the new one's going to start just a couple hours later as usual, with Corki being the ranked skin. Looks pretty interesting. Skin, definitely you guys will be seeing me use the skin sooner or later. So of course now we have Battle City Adventure, which is pretty much the same as the previous two patches, where in this patch we had the Hex Tech one with Heimerdinger being able to the Heimerdinger like thingy that you use as currency to buy stuff from the store, and the previous patch as well we had that with the arcane one, I believe. And there's going to be a new wild pass with Psychic Detective Kennen, so Psychic Detective skin line is going to be back. So first up, let's go over the changes to the Rift. So it's going to be all themed over Bandle City, which is of course the place Yordles come from. So first mechanic that's new is going to be enchanted mushrooms. Basically, the mushrooms are going to spawn at your outermost turret that has not yet been destroyed. So whether be it the tier 1 tower or the tier 2 tower, basically when you pick up these mushrooms, they will give you a tiny amount of gold. You can see they give you 2 gold here for the outermost tower, and in the towers you get 3 gold, and the tier 3 towers, the inhibitor towers, you get 5 gold. You can of course step on your opponent's mushrooms and deny them the gold. So overall, I think this is just a very minor change. I mean, getting yourself a couple extra gold here and there, I can't say it's not gonna matter, but it's not gonna be the most significant. It's just a pretty interesting one. So what is the changes to red and blue buff? Well, basically this part remains the same. We're gonna take a look at this part. So after 12 minutes, when someone kills the buff, everybody is going to get the buff. So everybody who's alive on your team is going to get the buff. And this is basically what we have in League PC. And I think this is an amazing change because obviously people are fighting over the buffs all the time. Everybody wants the buff. Even sometimes your mage goes and takes red buff. Your ADC goes and takes blue buff. Things like that. So with this change, it's going to make it better just for everybody. Interesting thing though is that currently when you kill someone with a buff, the buff transfers over to them. Now in PC, when this change was added, they removed the ability to steal buffs from your opponents by killing them. I believe it should be the same in Wild Rift, but of course it's not in the text here as of yet. So we're gonna have to see if that's the case. So Hex Gates, basically now from 7.5 to 11 minutes of the game, there is a new pair of Hex Gates that goes from the base to the jungle. And after 12 minutes, there is going to be the old ones where it goes from top to bot and bot to top. So yeah, it basically helps you get out of the base faster, but of course everybody's going to see where you go. So especially if you're the jungler, maybe not the best idea to take the Hex Gate from the base to wherever it is you need to go. Maybe if you're like a laner, that kind of makes more sense. Let's take a look what's next. So here we have the Enchanted Ensemble. This is basically the Rift Herald. They say it's a new neutral epic monster. It is kind of new, but it's basically the Rift Herald. So essentially after you attack it, it becomes a Rift Herald, and then you kill the Rift Herald, you get the Rift Herald, you pick up the Rift Herald. And the interesting part here is that the killer has their ability cooldowns reduced by 75% when you kill the Enchanted Ensemble. So basically what this means is you could have a situation where two teams are fighting over it, someone gets in the smite, and this will get their cooldowns reduced, and that could make a difference in that fight. So when you spawn it, it's gonna charge to the nearest tower, basically the Rift Herald, but the change is that after it slams into the tower, it will split into 3 monsters basically, and they will attack, gaining attack speed every time they attack. So basically it's just like a more useful Rift Herald, because when the Rift Herald crashes, it attacks super duper slow and basically does no damage. I guess this is just a better, more effective version of the Rift Herald. So the T-Hex mecha is finally removed. I think a lot of people, including myself, rejoice from that, and the old Baron buff is back. So essentially this whole wall of text is just telling you that the old Baron buff is bad. Of course the Baron buff gives you a boost to your stats. It also of course empowers your minions. The only real change between this and the old Baron buff is you have a new minion. So you have this new enchanted trumpet minion, which basically is going to heal allied minions when it attacks. So that's really the only change. Baron's abilities are basically the same as what it used to be. Elder Dragon, the chain lightning effect is removed as we're no longer in the Piltover patch. Instead, you're gonna get the true damage burn, which is what it used to be if I'm not mistaken. And of course, you still have the execute. So gameplay changes. I'm not sure why they split this up, but basically here you can see they say they're doing endurance changes, which is basically the durability patch for Wild Rift. But they split up the actual changes that they're making with the champion balance adjustments, which is really weird. But basically, they are buffing Lux's damage to minions and monsters from on her Q from 30% to 90%. That is a huge buff. Because her wave clear on her Q is pretty horrible. It's and honestly on her E it's also not the best until you get items. So this is gonna make her a better laner, especially in mid. Of course, mid is really the only lane you play Lux other than like support. So this is of course going to make Lux a lot of a better laner, and I already think she's pretty strong. So this is only going to make it more insane. Now Diana, after she got the rework, has been really strong. However, she's not really that popular. However, she is getting a nerf where her passive is now going to do only 75% damage to monsters. Her W is going to do less damage, both base as well as scaling. And the ulti, of course, which is the main issue, is just going to do less damage overall. So Singed is getting a really huge nerf as well. First up, his base magic resist is going down, which is already a pretty big nerf, especially if you're playing against an AP laner. And then his fling, which is of course the honestly I feel that fling is the main issue of why Singed is so good. He no longer has an uninterrupted dash towards the target, so now you can actually interrupt the dash, and that is the huge nerf that I was referring to. The dash is also going to be slower, and he's not going to get a cooldown refund if the target he targeted dies or like presses stasis or things like that. Also interesting how they call stasis Zhonya's Hourglass officially here in the patch notes, when in the game it's called the Stasis Enchant. So even Riot knows that that's Zhonya's. So anyways, Kennen getting a slight buff where his base damages for both the passive and active on the W is gonna be increased. And also same goes for his E. I think that these changes honestly don't matter all that much. It's just a very minor buff. And Kennen really, his power lies in the ulti, not the basic ability. So if they want Kennen to be good, they're gonna have to buff the ulti. But there was a time that Kennen was completely OP, so maybe they're not gonna do that. Now Teemo is getting a slight buff where basically the base damage of his toxic shot, which is the poison, is just going up from 5 to 8. Basically, so essentially it just makes you deal a little bit more damage. Of course, every tick is gonna do 3 extra damage, so I think it's a minor buff. It's not a huge buff, but it's a minor buff. Amumu is getting some better. It is being buffed as well, getting some better base damages and some better scalings to his cry, the despair, and also the damage reduction on his E is also getting increased, especially the armor and magic resist scaling. Not especially, but the armor and magic resist scaling is going up. So it's going to make him building tank a little bit better. I'm not too sure if many people build Amumu AP, but I believe most people build him tank. So Fizz, his passive is getting a buff where his AP scaling is going up, and the champion level is also being increased from 2 to 4. So his passive is just going to do a lot more damage, basically. And the problem that they say is that he spends time idling around when his ability is on cooldown, so they're making his passive do more damage. Now this seems like a really big buff to me, because champion level times 2 to champion level times 4, and then 40% to 45% seems like a really big buff. And his W is also getting a buff where the AP skill is going up by 5%. I think this is a decently big buff to Fizz, actually, because I do think Fizz is actually in an okay spot right now. Corki getting 4 extra base damage and less mana cost on the Phosphorus Bomb, also a small buff to Corki. So here, new items. There is going to be a new stat called Heal and Shield Strength. I'm going to see this on the support items later, and it's going to build out of this mid-tier item, Forbidden Idol. So of course it's gonna build from Ring of Revelation and 500 gold. So new item, Caning Rukern. A tank item, 2800 gold, 350 health, 75 magic resist, 100 base health regen, and you get a magic damage shield after not taking magic damage for 12 seconds. Now this is basically going to be the new go-to magic resist item, because Abyssal Mass is actually going to be removed. You guys will see that later. So you basically now have this Force of Nature as well as Spirit Visage. Now I feel Spirit Visage, of course, is only really being taken by champions who heal and shield a lot. But basically your main choice now is between the Recurrent as well as the Force of Nature. So Force of Nature is really for AP champions that do like continuous damage, like Teemo or like Lilia. But in general, most AP champions do burst, like Orianna, Syndra, like, you know, all of the general mages generally do burst. So Katic Recurrent counters burst by giving you a ton of magic resist as well as an extra shield. So I think Katic Recurrent probably is going to be the default magic resist option, against AP damage now. So there's a very interesting new item called Royal Trap. It's a really cheap item, 2500 gold. It gives you health, armor, and ability haste, basically about the same stat line as Zeke's. And here's the interesting part. After you apply crowd control effects, you gain 30% movement speed for 3 seconds and mark the target. So you reduce the marked target armor and magic resist by 5 to 12 for 5 seconds, and if they die while they are marked, you and nearby allies gain 2 to 300 bonus gold in total. I think that is really interesting, because 2 to 300 bonus gold is a lot, right? Because 300 gold is basically another kill. 200 gold in the early game is still a lot, right? That's like 2/3 of a kill, alright? So, but however, to meet that condition, you have to kill them within 5 seconds that they are marked, right? Because they're going to be marked for 5 seconds, I believe, and you're going to have to kill them within the 5 seconds that they're marked. And I don't think that's very difficult, but at the same time, that is also not very easy. So this is definitely going to be a rush item, for supports. It's definitely going to be first item for like the champions like Thresh, Leona, Alistar, the engagers. Basically, definitely you're going to want to get this first item, because you get all of the stats you want normally, the armor, the health, even ability haste is great. But you also get the potential to get extra gold. So I think this has to be first item for support now. Now, Revival Enchant is actually going to be removed, so it's going to be replaced by Dreammaker, which basically when you heal or shield, you're gonna basically cast a blue or purple bubble, and it's gonna empower. The blue bubble is gonna reduce damage, and the purple bubble is gonna give bonus magic damage. So the Hextech items are getting removed. Abyssal Mass and Revival Enchant, as I mentioned, is getting removed. The non-Hextech version of the items are coming back, but they are getting adjusted, and I think this patch notes is horribly organized, but you're going to cover this later on. So summoner spells, there's a new spell, Cleanse, mainly taken by ADCs. It basically removes CC, it removes Exhaust, it removes Ignite, things like that, and grants immunity to disable for 0.75 seconds. So huge spell, mostly for ADCs, just to counter CC and such, right? So next up, we have a lot of changes to summoner spells. Exhaust movement speed reduction is much lower, but the range is bigger. I think this is overall a good thing, because Exhaust normally is not used to chase people down. It's normally used to reduce their damage, so more range for less slow, I think, is a good thing for me. Heal cooldown getting reduced, healing amount getting increased, and the bonus movement speed duration getting increased, because I mean honestly not a lot of people take heal, right? It's really only enchanter supports that take heal. No one else really takes it. I think they are trying to encourage more people like ADCs, for example, to take it. Barrier shield is going up, especially in later ranks, is going up significantly, and the duration of the shield is going up from 2 to 2.5 seconds. So basically, at the current moment, every ADC is just taking exhaust, right? So they're trying to encourage you to take heal or barrier. Now there's a new option, cleanse, as well. I feel like this is mostly targeted at the ADC role, because like heal is basically taken by supports anyway. They're not going to change whether they take heal or not from this buff. Exhaust is also mostly taken by the ADC. Sometimes exhaust is taken by the support, but generally normal laners don't take exhaust and barrier. Sometimes they do take barrier though, so top lane or mid lane can sometimes take barrier. So barrier is just a buff to everywhere overall. There's going to be alright, this is actually a really huge change. So basically, you can swap your Zhonya's for teleport or like for Quicksilver, things like that, the enchantment. So if you switch your active enchantment that's not on cooldown, there's no cooldown penalty. Now this is actually a very, very huge change, because this means that, if you guys remember, last time you used to do a thing where you sell your enchant and then you buy teleport, and then you teleport to a fight. But the thing is that after the cooldown changes, where when you change enchant, you're gonna put it on like a 20% cooldown. If you wanted to do that, you have to buy teleport at the very start, when you die, and then wait for the cooldown to come up, and then you can use it when you respawn. But now with this, you can do the thing again where if you have your enchantment not on cooldown, you can recall, you can sell, the enchantment, or not sell, but switch the enchantment to teleport, and then you can teleport somewhere. So this is very useful for joining huge objective fights like Elder or Baron, or even going for a back door. So this is actually a really huge change that is going to impact a lot of games. Of course, if it is on cooldown, you will transfer the cooldown to the next item as well. So there's some new self-cast, and basically there's a couple of new buttons just to help you out with certain abilities. Not too big of a deal in my opinion. So here is the endurance changes to champion stats. Now I'm not going to be going through all of these because essentially in general the health and health per level are getting increased, and the armor and magic resist per level are getting increased as well. So you can see that basically, like, I'm not sure why this is such a random order. It's not even alphabetical or anything, but it's just a mess, right? These patch notes are just a mess. So you can see that essentially I think close to every champion in the game is just getting affected by this, yeah. But the changes they're getting differs, of course. So not everybody is getting a buff to like everything. Like some people are not getting the magic resist buff, for example. So yeah, there's a ton of changes. You can see I'm still scrolling, and this is basically the bulk of the patch notes. So yeah, so now here items are also getting the same change. So first one to get that is of course a huge shielding item, which is going to be gargoyles. So basically, now the new gargoyles instead of 25% is 28% of max health, and the shield value increases by 14% per enemy around. So last time it used to be basically if there are at least 3 enemies, it increases by 200%. So now the increase is going to be a lot less because 14%. So even if there's 5 enemies around you, it's only 5 times 14%. So the shield is just going to be a lot smaller, right? Because essentially all of these item changes, the concept is if it has healing, the healing is less. It has shielding, the shielding is less. So here, Heart Steel, less stacks, not less stacks, but the base is going up, but the percentage is going down for the percent max health. So overall less damage, scaling off of your health. So you can see Bloodthirster, Borg, Death's Dance all getting the 12% to 10% nerf on physical vamp, or max health in the case of Death's Dance. The Ignore Pain is also getting reduced for the ranged champions actually. So ranged champions don't take Death's Dance anyway, so not like it matters. So you can see Divine Thunder healing reduced, Eclipse shielding reduced, Thunder Sky healing reduced, Crown, incoming damage reduction reduced from 50% to 40%, Wraithmaker Omnivamp reduced, Warmogs, health per second restore reduced, shielding of Fimbulwinter reduced, Mantles, passive prop reduced, base and percent bonus health, Lamb Scepter of course 10 to 8 now, 2% reduction. Harmonic Echo is actually getting a pretty, not big, but a decent change. So max health removed, AP reduced, but of course you get the new stat heal and shield strength from the Forbidden Idol, as we kind of alluded to earlier. Also, of course, the passive is getting a change as well. So it used to restore health to target and 3 nearby allies, so basically your entire team other than yourself basically, but now it only restores health to the target. Now it used to restore health 130 plus 10%, now it's 150 plus 15%. Of course this is balanced by the fact you have less AP, so the scaling is more but you have less AP. And now if the target is below 40% health, the healing potency is increased to 150% of the original. So you're going to heal a lot more when people are low. I still think this is going to be a really good item for supports, but I feel that it's gotten weaker because you can only heal one person, but healing one person is not necessarily like weaker because you generally are trying to heal that one guy who's low anyway, not like your whole team. But the significance of not healing your whole team means you're not going to proc Staff of Flowing Water and Ardent Sensor on other people. You're only going to proc it on that one target, so pros and cons I guess. So Staff of Flowing Water, speaking of which, getting the same treatment, health removed, AP reduced, and heal and shield strength to 10%. New build path with the Forbidden Idol, of course. Iron Sensor, same thing. Less AP, heal and shield strength, and Protector's Vow. Now is getting it's just a straight up buff to Protector's Vow. By the way, he is getting a 50 max health increase, and heal and shield strength increased to 5%. So yeah, Protector's Vow was taken by enchanters, so this is kind of useful. Redemption, getting a health nerf, but heal and shield strength increased to 5%. This is generally not taken by enchanters, generally taken more by tanks, so heal and shield strength may not really matter. This could be a nerf to the item. Then you have Randuin's Omen, who's getting like its third or fourth rework at this point. So now it's a new passive. When you are critically struck by physical damage, you gain 1 stack of Counter Current. Each stack of Counter Current gives you 5% crit strike damage reduction, so it only works on crits. It stacks up to 4 times. So total of 20%. And when you reach full stacks, you gain 20% movement speed and slow resist equal to 40 plus 1% bonus health. So I guess slow resist is useful. Movement speed is useful, but of course you mainly are taking this against crit heavy teams. Now it's still the same in the sense that you're only really gonna build this if the enemy team is like at least 2 to 3 crit champions. Like think about it like an ADC who builds crit, like maybe a Yasuo mid, like you might want to get this item, or even better if there's like a Tryndamere top or something like that. You definitely want to get this item, but the use cases haven't really changed. So now here, of course, as I mentioned, the Hextech items are getting removed, the original items are getting added back, but the thing is that the confusing part about it is that the original items are getting the text of the Hextech items. So for example, Soul Stealer is still going to steal people's movement speed and ability haste when you kill them, but the stealing is a lot less now. Storm Razor is still going to increase your own movement speed and decrease the target movement speed, but a lot by less now again. And Zeke's is still gonna come out that slow and come out the trail that increases allies movement speed, but again it's gonna be less now. So runes are getting a lot of changes as well. So Sudden Impact, now instead of getting lethality, you're gonna instead do true damage. Now overall this is gonna lead to less damage, because even though you will deal true damage, however, I think the lethality, as in the armor pen and magic pen, is just more useful, because most people who take sudden impact are assassins. So the moment they dash in, they're unloading their whole combo, and the whole combo getting extra 13 armor and magic pen is going to do a lot more damage than this 10 plus 5 times character level minus 1 true damage. So overall it's a nerf to sudden impact. And I think some champions, like for example Samira, who takes sudden impact for her all-in, is probably not going to take sudden impact anymore, because there's really no point. Grasp is getting a change as well. Now you're not going to scale off of AD and AP anymore, it's just going to be scaling off your health. However, the healing is going to get increased from 2 to 2.5 max health, and the health you gain for each time you proc it is going up from 5 to 10. So overall it's just going to be focused a lot more on pure tanks to take Grasp, because the magic and the AD and the AP is just going to be removed completely, but the tank stats are getting increased, of course. So Brutal is getting a nerf in the early game, where it's going to do 7 damage instead of 12, and late game is getting a buff 19 to 21, but slight buff only. Arcane Comet also a pretty similar concept, where in the early game it's going to be a bit weaker because the base damage is going down. However, the scaling is better because it's now 3 instead of 2 times the number of times you procced it successfully. So in late game it's going to do more damage, and early game is going to be a lot less. So there's a new game mode, Unbound Frenzy. And of course, there's going to be a beta of Unbound Frenzy. Basically, essentially, in this game, you have a lot of wild abilities, right? So, for example, Ari increases the number of orbs and fox fires. Charm can pass through and hit multiple targets. You guys get the idea. It's basically like a for fun, crazy kind of mode where all your abilities are kind of OP. And you can see that these are all the champion changes for that mode. Again, I'm not going to go through all of them because really there's no point. And now we go to battlefield changes. So new, alright, actually no, the new items actually is still for that mode. So Hextech ARAM is getting new augments, a lot of new augments. Again, I'm not going to go through all of them, it's going to take forever, and it's not even the main Summoner's Rift. So after which, we have Arena again getting a lot of adjustments, huge adjustments. Now system changes. So this part is a little bit confusing, but overall I think this doesn't really matter too much. It's kind of like when you interact with the system, you're probably just gonna figure it out. Even I'm a little bit confused by this part. Basically, they're removing the old mission system and the Dark Star Malphite skin fragments. They're having a new system, and Polar Energy is becoming condensed ores, and there's condensed modes, and like I have no idea what's going on. Really, there's gonna be like a collected legends system, which seems like opening card packs, and you can get Pengu cosplay Tristana, and you have seasons, and you have cards of varying varieties. I don't know what the heck is going on with this, but basically it's a new reward system. I think when you interact with it in the game, it's going to be a lot more clear. There's going to be like Unbound Frenzy system as well, Easter egg collection for Unbound Frenzy, I guess, but yeah, it's just really confusing. However, we get some interesting changes here. Loadout optimization. So essentially, I think the really interesting one is a loadout codes. So basically, kind of like when you want to tell your friend what to build, like not in game but like outside a game, or like for example in my videos when I'm prescribing builds for champions. Now you can actually have a code for the build, and when you search the loadout code on the loadout search feature, you can actually just not steal, but download that loadout into your loadouts, and you can use that loadout. So you're definitely going to be seeing me using this during my videos, so you guys can kind of use my loadouts more easily. And I really think this is the most interesting change out of all of these. All these are kind of inconsequential in my opinion, but this is a really interesting one. So highlights, you have a lot of changes like the highlights, casual page optimization. I mean, I don't even use highlights, so it's irrelevant to me. New social features, and they're just changing how champion and lane screen is like. Lane stats are being changed, master versatility is being changed. I think all this is not really important. Gifting, change a little bit, not very important as well. And all these are basically, in my opinion, just not very important changes. It doesn't really affect gameplay, it's just like kind of other systems. Of course, we have Battleland Rumbles releasing with Rumble, Conceal Lilia. We have Pengu cosplay, Tristana, which is going to be part of the new rewards system, and the Splendor Opus skin line releasing when the patch comes out, as well as of course Corki, and some bug fixes. But that's pretty much it for patch 6.0. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video, and goodbye.